Hello students, my name is Susan Carrillo. I go by Dr. Carrillo or Professor Carrillo. You can also call me for short Dr. C or Professor C. And I am going to be your coach, your mentor, your guide, your facilitator with respect to learning to think about right and wrong through the disciplinary lens of philosophy. So I'm very excited to be here, and I've always wanted to have a section of just high school students who are college students. I have taught high school students who are in a blended class, so when they're in a class with on campus with students who have finished or beyond or are beyond high school age. But I've always wanted to teach a section of just high school students, and now I have three. Okay, so I'm going to say more about that in a moment. What I want to start with is just some information about me, a little bit about my professional experience, my education, and then I'll even tell you some things about like what I like to watch on Netflix and some other things. So I hope you get something out of this video. I definitely want you to see me as a person, as a real entity, a living, breathing human being, and not just a bunch of text or written up information in the online, in the online learning environment. Okay, so I've been with what is now called Dallas College for almost 4 years now. I taught full-time at Austin Community College, where I also taught philosophy for about 13 years prior to teaching here. Now, I came back to Dallas because I did grow up mostly in Dallas between Pleasant Grove and East Dallas, the east side. I was a teenager back in the 80s. So when I was about 12 or 13, that was like the mid 80s. And then when I was 18, I graduated, and that was 1990. So I went to J.L. Long for junior high. Don't know if any of you have heard of that school, but also Woodrow Wilson for high school. When I was at J.L. Long and or Woodrow, I participated in choir, yearbook, soccer, softball. I'm trying to think of anything else. I was in some honors classes. That said, I grew up, like I said, I grew up between Pleasant Grove and East Dallas. In East Dallas, I lived close I lived close to Munger, and I guess you could say I-30. Back in the 80s, that was a time of a lot of gangs in the East Dallas on my side of the neighborhood. So I grew up in a working class neighborhood. Some people might say some sections of it are, those that are, where people are living in poverty. But I think it's more like what would be considered working class. And it was a really interesting time to go to school because, like I said, there was a lot of gangs. There was a lot of pressure to be in gangs, especially in the hood where I came from. And somehow I did not get caught up in all of that. I can also say that a lot of my friends from my neighborhood, because Woodrow, when it comes to Woodrow and Long, you have people coming from different diverse neighborhoods and social and income levels. A lot of people also got pregnant some of them as young as 13 or 14, and somehow I escaped that. So if I look down, it's because I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to forget to make a point. Okay, so like you, I started out in the community college. After graduating Woodrow, I had a baby, or actually after graduating Woodrow, I had a baby. I had just turned 19. I heard that if you could type 40 words a minute and speak Spanish, you could make $10 an hour. And believe me, 1990, that sounded pretty good. So I went to El Centro College back then. Now it's El Centro Campus. And I got completed 55 hours in secretarial science. And decided that I hated that. I worked in the president's office as a student assistant, and I did not like that kind of work. So I was doing well in my liberal arts classes. I did really well in my English class and my history class, and I had learned about SMU having a transfer program, and free money set aside just for people coming from El Centro or Dallas College. And so I jumped on that. I had a really good GPA, and I ended up majoring. So I got my back then it was an Associates of Arts and Sciences. So then I went to SMU, Southern Methodist University, Dallas, early to mid 90s. And there I majored in English with an emphasis in creative writing. So I took classes, your generic English classes, everything from medieval English, Chaucer, pre-colonial, like, Cabeza de Vaca and him, different people's journals from the early explorers to Victorian literature, to American literature, to Chicano literature, to Latin literature. But I also took courses and workshops in poetry writing, writing novels. I've always liked that creative writing side. But I also minored in philosophy. I fell in love with philosophy in a weird way. I was reading a book about Eastern philosophy called The Tao of Pooh, and it was very critical of Western philosophy. And I was like, well, what is this Western philosophy that Taoism or this author telling me about Taoism is so critical of? And so my curiosity was piqued. And so when I went to SMU, I had to have a minor. And so I said, hey, what's this? What is philosophy about at SMU? I was talking to my advisor, and she explained to me, and I was like, I think I'm going to minor in philosophy. Philosophy it's been an amazing part of my journey, and that's why I'm here to help others who might be interested in making a journey into philosophy. It was in philosophy that I learned to think of myself as a thinking, intelligent, reflective being who was unique in some fundamental and important way, not only in terms of my own consciousness and reality, but in terms of my values and my way to look at things and my uniqueness and what things of that nature. It was just a really enlightening experience. And so after I finished SMU, I actually worked at El Centro as an academic advisor, and I did workshops, and I did some education specialist type things, they called it, where I helped students maximize their intellectual thinking and learning skills. And then I went to the University of Oklahoma to get my master's in philosophy after working for 1 year full-time at El Centro in academic advising and special programs. I wasn't sure at first if I was I knew I wanted to get a master's. My goal in getting a master's was to, further my education. And I was thinking of law or social work or education. But after working with so many students, and I really loved interacting with students, I decided that I wanted to be a community college professor. I've never wanted to be a university professor. I've never wanted to be a scholar as such. I wanted to take philosophy, I wanted to package it and to present it to students who might not otherwise ever take a philosophy class in a way that would be really meaningful and compelling. And I'm going to have to say more about my approach to philosophy and what you're going to actually get in this version of an ethics class. And by the way, ethics is a branch of philosophy, which is why I'm talking about philosophy. And you'll learn more about that in your first reading in the ebook. So anyway, I got my master's degree in philosophy. I was thinking of getting my PhD in philosophy, but I looked around and noticed, what are my, what do I really want to focus on philosophy for my PhD? What are my long-term goals? Since I knew I wanted to go back to community college as a professor of philosophy, I decided that it would be better if I got my PhD, my doctorate in education. And so just for fun, just as my prop or a visual aid, this is my nerd hat, if you will. Okay, it's nerding out big time. But this is the hat that I got, part of my regalia for when I graduated from UT Austin with my doctorate in education. And I thought I would just show you the beautiful robe that I got. I'm not showing off. Well, I am a little bit, but I'm kind of trying to inspire you because I'm really proud. And I'm partly proud because of what I said about my background. I grew up in East Dallas in the 80s in a working class neighborhood where people were getting pregnant. And no judgment there, no negative anything about that, or even in gangs. And so this is the beautiful robe that you get, the doctorate. You get a robe with bars on it, but when I go to commencement then, I'm wearing this beautiful ensemble. So maybe that inspires you. I do feel for students right now that aren't able to do the formal traditional walk. My heart goes out to you, and I'm hoping that people are able to do, who are seniors and graduating, are able to do some kind of walk. So, all right, so I'm going to leave my prop on because it just adds a little bit of silliness at the same time. So now, another thing to know is some, miscellaneous stuff is I can't see really well, but I wanted you to see me without my glasses first. These are actually reading glasses, so I have contacts on, but I'm 49. Actually, I'm turning 49 the day after making this video, February 2nd. So that said, I've been married for 3 years to my husband, right? Not to a chair or a desk or to this hat. And my husband, I first met him at Del Long during my junior year. Of course, we weren't together that whole time, but he found me on Facebook 30 years later. We reconnected, and now we've been married. We live in East Dallas again. I'm so excited. I've always wanted to move back to East Dallas, back to the hood. I've made so many great circles. I came back to Dallas. I came back and worked for the Dallas College District. I'm back on the east side in East Dallas. I'm back with more of my family. And now I'm back with the high school in Dallas because I get to teach you guys, and I'm super excited. But let me put my glasses back on so I can look at my notes. Okay, so I do have 2 grown children, they're both in their late 20s. I have 3 grandkids, 3.5-year-old boy, 1.5-year-old girl, and a 6-month-old boy. What else do I want to say? Miscellaneous stuff, fun stuff. I do like to watch Netflix. Some of my favorite series have been The 3%, The 100, The Last Kingdom, The Handmaid's Tale. I did not like the way that ended. I was left wanting more, and I was devastated. I read the book in high school, and I really enjoyed it. The Good Place. Other trivia, I like to work out. I'm into fitness. I quit all my memberships at my different gyms because during the pandemic, I had to create my own gym, and now I have enough equipment to work out at home. And then there's just one last thing I want to tell you guys about, okay? And by the way, I don't know if you know, but as you get older in your 40s, you can't see close anymore or at least most of us. So I have my contacts on, but I need these to see close. So there's just one more thing that I want to share with you. And by the way, I can see my video is 11 minutes, and it's probably going to end up being 14 minutes. I don't expect you're going to introduce yourself to me in step 2 of orientation. That if you want to do a video, that's great. If you want to do it in writing, that's great. If you do it in writing, can you please try to use college level writing skills? Watch your syntax, your formatting. Hold on. Your formatting, stuff like that. Try to write clearly. A video is great. I would love to see your face. And if you have props, 2 or 3 props that help me, let me decline that call. I'm sorry. I apologize. I forgot my laptop was ringing because it captures my phone calls. If you want to do a video, that's great. If you want to do a letter, and you'll learn more about this in step 2, that's great. Include pictures, diagrams, drawings, doodlings. If you have props like, I had this prop and the rest in my robe. If you have 2 or 3 things you want to share with me, that would be good. That said, when you introduce yourself to me, I do have specific questions for you to answer. The questions I'm asking are really important to me. I really want to know, what's going on in your life? Who are you? And so it's really important that you answer all the questions. Even if your answer is kind of like a no to a question, then let's say I ask you, are you responsible for any, do you have pets? Let's just say that. Even if the answer is no, just say, I'm not responsible for any pets. If I ask you a question, make sure you elaborate on your answer and don't answer just yes. If it is a yes, if your answer is a yes to a question, then elaborate on it. If your answer is a no to a question, then just let me know that, that whatever I'm asking in the question doesn't apply to you. Okay, so I was saying that because you are going to introduce yourself to me for step 2. That's going to be just for me. No one else is going to see your introduction. I also want to iterate that I got this assignment to teach 3 sections of ethics to high school students, or sections with high school students only. At the very last minute, I was scheduled to teach 3 sections on campus at Cedar Valley, but not surprisingly, a lot of students aren't ready to come back or able to come back to take a physical class. So all 3 sections were canceled because there were only 5 or 6 students in each. And I think most sections that were offered, that could be offered online, were canceled because there just wasn't enough students to take it. I say this because I hardly had any time to prep for this class. And so I just want to let you know that, because that might mean that I have to send a correction to something or whatnot. The book that we're using, it's not one that I would use. It's somewhat like a book that I use in my other sections. I'm based at Cedar Valley, but I'm only somewhat familiar with that book. But I do plan to read it along with you. And like I said, it does parallel the book that I use. But of course, the author does have a special way of introducing you to various topics in ethics or the philosophical study of right and wrong. So I wanted to let you guys know that. So if it ever seems like I'm just a step ahead of you, or if I have to make a correction to something in the syllabus or the course schedule or the Blackboard or eCampus, the reason why is because the administrators gave me these classes at the last minute. And of course, I'm trying to get my other classes underway. And at the same time, I'm having to prep for your classes, and I only had 2 weeks. So I was able to borrow some material from people who teach the class using the book, but I changed a lot of it and I made the class my own. So I do have some things that are my own in terms of my expectations, assignments, how many I have, and whatnot. Okay then, I hope to start getting videos and letters submissions for step 2 soon. I am going to respond to each and every one of you with a video, and I'm looking forward to that. Okay, bye.